Good evening, Jersey, Crit. How are you guys doing? So everybody's doing okay today. I'm a little, uh, I'm a little distracted. Kind of bummer to hear about Tina Turner's passing. Had a lot of experiences where I, played her songs and stuff, or songs that she covered, or whether they were ones she wrote. I have no idea, but she was an awesome singer, and just kind of a bummer. So, to Tina. All right, so what we're going to do tonight is I have it's pretty easy song by Warrant, and it's like a ballad song, so it's on acoustic guitar. But on the original, it has like a heavy chorus, and so this is just kind of like my rendition of like an unplugged version of the song. So you could you'd be able to play it, this rendition of it by yourself, and it will sound good. It'll sound full and everything, and having the rest of the band. So as usual, there is a link in the description where you can download the tabs for this. And then one thing, I didn't notate this on the tab, but they are tuned down a half step. Now I'm not tuned down. I'm just in standard tuning right now. Because obviously you can play it that way. But that's just to simplify things. I didn't want you guys to have to all tune down to follow along. So it's pretty easy. It just uses a bunch of basic chords that you probably already know how to play. And if not, they're really, really easy to pick up. The chord transitions are pretty simple. And then I'll even show you some like kind of extra things you can do to it that aren't indicated on the tab, but they're just some like little extra things you can do to kind of spice it up a little bit. So while everybody is getting those tabs, do we have anybody here new tonight? And if so, where are you from? Where are you viewing from? In Jersey, that I meant to look it up and I forgot. That Coffee in Bed. I don't even know what song that is. It'll probably be one of those things that, like, oh, duh, I do know what it is, but it isn't ringing a bell whatsoever. Hello, Rick. How's it going, man? How's arm, shoulder, all that business going? All right, so I hope everybody has had a chance to download the tabs. We can get started on this. But in the meantime, if you know the drill. All the YouTubers say this. If you like what I'm doing, do me a solid. Hit that thumbs up. Think about subscribing to the channel. All that good stuff. It all goes to. This isn't my channel. I just work here, and it just shows them that I'm doing a good job and that you guys like what I'm doing. Oh, you're already done with the physical therapy? That's awesome. I was going to say that didn't seem like it was very long, but that's easy for me to say. I wasn't the one going through it. All right. So the song that we're going to be looking at is called "Blind Faith," and the I think it's a cool song. I really like it. But one of the reasons why I did it was because not too long ago we did "Heaven," and you guys really seemed to like it. So I thought, well, and there was actually other Warrant songs that were mentioned. So I thought this would be a good one to do because, like I said, it's pretty easy to pick up. Oh, it was only 5 months long. Yeah, piece of cake. Bad Coffee in Bed by Squeeze. Yeah, I can't place it. No, this is not I Saw Red. That's a different song. That song's called I Saw Red. The song's called Blind Faith. So it's kind of neat too, is that it works really well for a solo performance kind of a song because it has a variety of strumming and then more arpeggiating kind of a thing. Now you could play this like as a finger style rendition of this, but that's not what we're going to be looking at. But we are going to be looking at just through the arpeggiated parts and the strumming, and then like I said, I've got some extra things that that I'm going to show you that aren't on the tabs, but they're easy to do. Just some like pickup note things, stuff that sounds really good. If you listen to the original song, it's only the choruses that are where the electric guitars come in, with overdrive and whatnot on the verse, and then the pre-chorus, and it's still acoustic, and the bass line is really cool, and it has some cool parts that kind of walk from one chord to the other. And if you add that in there, just with your strumming, it sounds really good. I think it just kind of really fills it out. The song is called "Blind Faith." All right, so the first part of it here will be the intro, and the intro and the verse share a lot of the same stuff. Well, actually, let me just scroll down and look. I haven't looked at this in a long time. They could be like more or less the same thing. Yeah, it actually is. The verse and the intro. There's more to the intro than there is the verse. Let's put it that way. All right. So for this part, for the intro and the first part of the verse, anyway, we've got 4 chords. So we've got an E minor, and we have a C add 9. Now, there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's lots of ways that you can play C add 9, but I'm going to show you the way that I like to do it for this because I think it feels like it just makes it a much smoother transition, through the progression. Like the segues from the chords are a lot easier. So before we do that one, let's look at G. So if we take our G major chord, and in this case, we've talked about this lots of times. Sometimes G is played with the fretting on you're fretting the 3rd fret here on the B string, and then other times it's open. And we had all that snow and cold weather, and then instantly it went hot. Everything's melted. My allergies have gone through the roof, and these allergy medication I'm on, it gives me like dry mouth so bad it's unbelievable. All right, so we take that G major chord. We don't, in this case, we do want to be picking up that D here. We don't want the open B string. So 3rd fret of the low E with your 2nd finger, and then the 2nd fret of the A string with your 1st finger. The D and G strings are open, and then I'm on the 3rd fret of the B string with my 3rd finger, and the 3rd fret of the high E string with my 4th finger. So that's G. So to make C add 9, all we're going to do is move our 1st and 2nd fingers up a set of strings. Now, typically, you can do C add 9 like that, and there's later on in the song, you can do it that way too if you want. But in this case, we actually want to have the high E string open. So just take your pinky off. So when we are transitioning from E minor, let me finish going through the chords. So we've got E minor, we've got G, and then we've got the C add 9, and then we've got regular old D. So those are the 4 chords that we're going to be using for this first part. Jersey, you're lost. Where are you trying to go? Okay, so the chord progression goes E minor, then C add 9, then G, and then D. So when I play it, I've done this like, well, not this like playing this song per se, but like done these kinds of transitions for a long time. So I already can do it the way that I do it. But I want to show you, if you're somewhat of a beginner or just haven't had a lot of experience, I want to show you a way that you can do these changes that makes it pretty simple, because you don't have to ever take all of your fingers off the fretboard to do it. So when we do E minor, I do it like this with my second and third finger. But if you use your first and second finger, it can make these change. Well, actually, I guess in this case, it doesn't really matter, because you're going to have to. Yeah, I guess it is a little bit easier. Okay, so if you used your first and second fingers like this to do E minor, and then the next chord is C add 9. So you just put your first finger where your second finger is, and then move your second finger to the 3rd fret of the A string. So E minor, and then that, and then you pick up the 3rd fret of the D string. Now, it is important to do it with your 3rd finger and not your pinky, because the next chord is G, and by going from C add 9 to G, you're already set up for it really well. So we have the C add 9, and then to go to G, just move your first and second finger down a string each, and then add your pinky to the 3rd fret of the high E. And now the last chord is D. So your ring finger right now is already where it needs to be to make D. So just take your pinky off, move your first finger from the 2nd fret of the A string to the 2nd fret of the G string, and your second finger from the 3rd fret of the low E to the 2nd fret of the high E. So that makes it so when you make the transitions through, you don't have to take your fingers off. Now, when you transition from D back to E minor, this is like the only time where you have to take everything off. But it's easy enough. Your first and second finger are already on the right frets. You just move them down. All right. So this first part of it, the intro, is arpeggiated, meaning that I'm just going to be playing these chords, but I'm not going to be strumming. I'm going to be picking individual strings, and it's got this timing to it. If you look on your transcription, you can see that on starting there on the first measure, the first note, this just open low E string, is a dotted quarter note. So that means that you're going to hit it on 1, and it's going to ring out for the downbeat of 2. And then on the and of 2, you hit the D string. This is assuming you've got your fingers on for E minor, right? We hit that on the and of 2, and then on the downbeat of 3, and of 3, downbeat of 4, and of 4. So it gives it this. It kind of puts this kind of like a swing onto it. It's one of the things that really attracted me to this song. I can remember exactly where I was and what I was doing the first time I heard this song. And I was in high school, and a friend of mine, I went over to his house, and he'd bought this record, and I wasn't really a fan of Warrant at this point in time. And so he put it on, and I was like, whatever. Heard Cherry Pie and just thought, And then when this song came on, I was really kind of attracted to it. Anyhow, I think it's a really good song. It's really simple, but it sounds really good. So anyhow, that timing is carried out on each chord, that same thing. So you got the 1, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. Okay. Then you're hitting that on the and a 4. So on the second measure, we're going to switch to the C add 9. So, and that's right on the downbeat of 1. So you have to make that change, kind of quick. It's if you're, if you're trying to play it at tempo, but if you're new, do not worry about trying to play stuff at speed. Get the timing so it is correct, that all the duration of the notes are correct. Even if you're playing it, at half of the speed that it's supposed to be, it's still, the timing is still going to be right. And then you'll speed up when you play along. Or as you practice, your speed will increase. So you got it's the same picking pattern too. So we're hitting we're on the E minor, we're hitting E and then D, E, B, G, D. And I'm referring, when those notes are referring to what strings. Then we switch to the C add 9. It's the same thing. The only thing that changes is that our root note is on the A string now instead of the low E. But the rest of it stays the same. Then we go to the G. We're back to the picking pattern from the first one. So the low E string, and then the D string, and then E, B, G, and D. And then the last one, D. This one, we're going to go D, same timing. So again, it's a dotted quarter note. So 1, 2, and 3, and 4. So here we've got a little change that actually it's indicated in the tab. I should have actually put that it changed chords, because in a sense it does. So we're on D. We hit the D string, then the G string, then the high E, then the B. Then you're going to put your pinky down to make D suspended 4. So you're still doing the whole D chord. You're just going to put your pinky down onto the 3rd fret of the high E string. And this is the only time where the timing on that changes. So now we've got the dotted quarter note, 8th, 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 quarter. So all of beat 4 is just that note. And you don't want it, you want it so it rings out over each other. That's approximately up to tempo. It's probably faster than that. For whatever reason, I remember things slower than they actually are. Every time I go to play along, like a song that I already know how to play, and I go to play along with the original track for whatever reason, no matter what, it's always like way faster than what I think it is. I think it's going to be. I was going through Master of Puppets with a student, and I pulled up the original song to play along with it, and I was like, "Oh my God!" I couldn't believe it. I just could not believe that that my brain had slowed it down that much. Okay, so let's do that part, and we'll slow it down a little bit. So we got the. Try that again. Dang it. So that is the first 4 measures of the intro, and it is. Let's see if I can find the scroll arrow here. And then the whole intro is 8 measures long. So you start off with the. Now we're on to measure 5. So we're back to the E minor again. the C add 9 again. Now, this is where we're going to have a change. We're going to move to a G. So you just move your first and second finger down for the G. And we're going to play the E, A, D, and then we're going to change to another chord. It's not really, I mean, I guess everything is a chord, but we're not going to get that technical with it. So we're going to go E, A, D, and then I'm going to take my middle finger off and just use my first finger to pick up the second fret of the low E. Hit that, the A string, D string, and then you're going to put your second finger down onto the second fret of the D string. So you get this. And then to a D chord as a whole note. So, whoops. Whoops. Man, I am sucking tonight. Something fierce. To get that part in there. Now, thus far, that is probably the hardest part. At least it's the hardest part for me. So if you're a beginner or just haven't had a lot of experience, or maybe you aren't a beginner and you just haven't done this type of thing, whatever the reason is, don't not play the song because, I can't do that one part. Play the parts you can play and you will be able to play this, but you could also kind of substitute something out there. You could simplify that by going, yeah, it kind of really needs to be in there because that's an E. But yeah, I mean, even if you just anything like that, just to kind of fill up the space. I mean, obviously, ideally, you want to learn how to play it right, but don't not play because of that. I wasted so much time when I was young because I had a lot of really funny ideas about how things worked, and if I couldn't play it exactly the way that it was supposed to be or whatever, I wouldn't do it, and it's just dumb. It's not, and besides, I was doing this for fun anyway, right? I'm sorry, I'm not paying attention to the feed here. I cannot. Sorry, blind. It's 1980. That's what I'm just going to call you. 1980. Welcome. Welcome, David. Okay, so that is the intro. So let me play the entire intro. July 4th, 1776. That's good. No, that is, we did that one before. That's Heaven. We did that one before. Kind of similar, uses a lot of the same chords. It's funny is that a lot of from this era of music in the 80s, the hair metal bands, they all had at least one power ballad, if not, two or three. And they were always E minor, C add 9, G, the G with that D there. But they still somehow or another made them sound different enough that it didn't just sound like the same song being played by a bunch of different people. Game of War. That's a song by Warrant? It's not ringing a bell. It's not, I mean, I like Warrant, but it's not like they're on my, go-to records or anything. but yeah, this song and Heaven, they're both really good songs. I think that Jane Lane was just a great singer. He had a really nice, clear voice, and he could kind of get that kind of a grit thing in it, but it didn't sound like he was in pain while he was doing it. I thought he had a really good voice. Oh, you're welcome, David. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in. Extended, so it's like a bonus track on the extended version of Cherry Pie. I'll have to check that out. Tesla. What Tesla song is in Dadgad? We did a Getting Better on here. I don't know, a year or so ago. Yeah, I know I know the Dadgad tuning. I'm meaning, what song is in that tuning? Oh, I could never mind. I can see you were like auto correcting your spelling thing. Sorry, I brought the wrong glasses down here and I can barely read this crap. Yeah, so let me play through that intro one more time, just the whole thing together, so you get that. Wow, that was just absolutely atrocious, but you get the idea. Hang Tough, that's a good song. And it's in Dadgad? Huh, I'll have to go back and listen to it. I actually thought that Hang Tough was one of the songs that a cover band I played in a long time ago that we did, and it was nothing that was in open tunings. I never really got into doing stuff with like alternate tunings other than drop D, and just like in the last few years. Up we'll look at is the verse, and the verse exactly the same thing as the four measures of the intro. So it's just that C add 9, D, and it just repeats. So that's the. So yeah, so it just repeats that entire sequence 4 times. The part in the intro is Dadgad. I need to go back and listen to it. Yeah, it's weird. I haven't listened to Mechanical Resonance in a really, really long time, and I really, really liked that album. They actually had a little bust, and that was a good album too. All right, so the next part, the pre-chorus, and then we start strumming. So this is like where the biggest change in the song is far. So we move along to that. Is there anything on the parts that we just went over that anybody's having any problems with, or if you have questions about it or whatever? And as usual, ask away with the questions. They don't necessarily have to be about this song or whatever. Guitar related questions. Or Subaru related questions, or mountain biking related questions, cycling related questions. Those are the things that I'm into. All right. So for the pre-chorus here, we've got just the same chords that we've been using. So there isn't any new chords. We've got C add 9, but now Be a Man by Tesla is some of the best guitar riffs ever. Man, man, I can't believe I can't place that song either. But I mean, seriously, it has been a really, really long time. Long story short, before we had streaming and you had to have like, physical media, uh, well, I guess you didn't have physical, you could have like an iPod or whatever, but I really never really got into that iPod thing. I had CDs until I didn't. Anyway, I had all these different albums and uh, they're gone. They got they're gone. Not important how or why. But anyway, they're gone. So when I started using streaming services and stuff, um, I immediately was just kind of I started with the stuff that I was currently listening to, and then I've been slowly kind of going back and grabbing other stuff. And honestly, Tesla is not a band that is even. I don't think they're even in my Spotify. I need to remedy that because they're an excellent band. Oh, David, you are welcome. Okay, so for the pre-chorus, we've got C add 9, but now here's the difference: is that he's playing it with the closed high E string. So when we were doing the finger picking, we had the E string open. Now we're picking up the 3rd fret. So this looks just like G major, just with your 1st and 2nd finger move, and that's like typically the most common way that I've seen it used. But it's they both ways sound good, but they do sound kind of bit different. Here we've got that high G in there, and just really quick for those of you who are like, well, why? How can they both be C add 9 if they're not the same thing? These chords, like an add 9 chord, is it's a triad, so it's a major chord, and it's got the 9th tone of the scale added to it. So in this case, the 9th tone of a C major scale is D, because it's the same as the 2nd note. It's just 1 octave higher. So the 3 notes that would make a C major chord are C, E, and G. So if we play the high E string open, that's an E, which is part of C major. If we pick up the G here, that's still part of the chord, of the original chord, but the E is the 3rd and the G is the 5th, and a 5th, 1 and 5 is like a power chord. It's neither major or minor. It just gives it kind of, it's like just kind of a thick, heavier kind of sounding chord. Anyway, I probably spent way too much time explaining that. Oh, you're a lifer. I could not tell what that was. Okay, well, that's awesome. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to have that C add 9, and then we're going to have G and D. So G, C, and D, if we reverse the order of these chords and we play, well, actually, that'll come here in a minute. Forget I said that. Okay, so we got C add 9, and then when we make the switch to G, all you have to do is move your 1st and 2nd finger down 1 set of strings. And then D, when you make the switch to D, again, you don't need to remove this finger. So, I mean, obviously it doesn't sound any different to go. It's just smoother. Anytime you do not have to remove all of your fingers. If you can always leave one finger planted, I mean, it isn't going to work that way all the time. But anytime you can do that, it just makes it better when you make your transitions, because you're less likely to like move out of the correct area if you're anchored to the fretboard a little bit. Okay, so for the strumming part here again, this is to make it so you can play this by yourself and it's going to sound good. It's going to still have a full sound to it. So it's not exactly the same strumming that's on there, because they've got other instruments and things that are going along with it. So with this, what I've interpreted it with, or how I've interpreted it, I should say, is we have a half note, and then a dotted quarter note, and then an eighth note. So it's like 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then on the second measure, it's 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Now, obviously, when you're playing it, you don't want it to, be all super staccato, but this is just to kind of give you an idea. And then what you want to do is just wing it, just play it, and kind of let what your body is naturally wanting to do rhythmically come out. So that being said, your strumming pattern might end up being different than mine or Jersey's or David's or whoever's. It's just the way, it's just the way that it works. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if you're playing with a group and you've got people that are, supposed to be playing the same thing at the same time, that's different. But when you're playing by yourself, you can really kind of loosen up with that with your strum and kind of really make it your own. Just kind of feel your way through it. Think about it like when, if you're, a countertop drummer, if you were, all right, we all do that, right? So if you think about that as like in a sense of strumming, and you thought of like your right hand is a downstroke and your left hand is an upstroke, which might be completely polar opposite for you. It just, depending whether you're right-handed or left-handed, or in skateboarding or snowboarding, they call it goofy-footed. If your primary leg is the one that you put on the board and then you pump with the other one, or the other way around. I don't remember how it is, but it can kind of work the same way with strumming. So that would be like something like down, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, up, something like that. Another thing you can do too to help with that is to sing it. Now you don't necessarily have to like sing, the song. You can sping it, because where the syllables are in the words a lot of times lines up with where you change directions in a pick stroke, especially for these things when you're just playing it like I said, by yourself. So if I'm, see. Okay, so on that C add 9, down, 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 up, down, down, up, down. That's how I do it. Down, 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 up, down, down, down. But it may not be that way for you. That might feel really awkward. I'm a firm believer when you're working with stuff with like strumming and everything. I mean, if this is like, if you just picked your first guitar up, 10 minutes before I started doing this, it'd be different. But I mean, if you have experience, you've been playing, it's better to not go against the grain really hard. If it's like, man, if you, let's say you're doing the strum and everything feels good, like 80% of it, 90% of it, but there's this part where I say to do a downstroke, but your arm wants to do an upstroke, or the other way around. Don't fight it. Just do it, because it's not really going to sound. I mean, obviously, strumming sounds, down versus, or excuse me, up versus down. It sounds a little bit different, but it's no, we don't need to split hairs over this. Okay, so with that, I go down, 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 and then it goes to the G. So it goes to the G. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, I go down, down, down. So that's another thing too that you can kind of look with this. And this isn't like a set in stone thing. This is just kind of a guideline. As a general rule, if something is a quarter note, I'll do a downstroke. If it's eighth notes, I'll do a downstroke on the downbeat and an upstroke on the upbeat. It doesn't always work that way, but that's a pretty good way you can kind of get yourself a base start. And then the only other thing with that I will say, as far as how you're doing the strum, is that in Western music, I mean the Western part of the world, including this song, we start on the downbeat and we end on the offbeat. So downbeats, downstrokes, offbeats, upstrokes. So if you are, and this where this really comes into factors when you're changing chords. So like on this, we're playing C add 9 for the first two measures, and then we switch to a G. So that last strum on C add 9, I want that to be an upstroke. So when I'm transitioning to G, I can start right on a downstroke. And this isn't all music. This is just like most Western music. So when we get to that G, it's a half note. So that's 1, 2, and then we have a quarter note for beat 3. 3, and then 2 eighth notes for beat 4. So 4 and. So I go down, down. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4 and. 1, 2, 3, 4 and. We switch to a D, the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4 and. So this is the thanks to you. Now so it's hard for me to, I'm not even going to try to sing it, but hopefully you understand which part of the song that is. So that's the pre-chorus, and then that leads us into the actual chorus. And like I said, on this song, on the original version of it, when it goes to the chorus, then it's the drums come in, and the heavy overdriven electric guitars come in. So it's going to be different. I think that on that part they actually I think they're just doing it like that, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Well, that's kind of boring, especially on the acoustic guitar, and when you're just playing it by yourself, you don't have everything else there to kind of fill it out. So it can be a little boring. So this is really, really simple. And now we're going to be using the same chords that we've been using. We've got a G, a D major, and a C add 9, and then back to a D. So you can switch through all of these chords with never having to remove your ring finger. You can just keep it here the whole time. So for this, I've got that same 1, 2, 3, 4 and for each chord. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Down. So that is actually what I just refer to as the universal strum. It works with so many different things. It's really easy. If you're a beginner, that's like something you should really have down. It's just that 1, 2, 3, 4 and, because there's like a million songs that you can play that just use that. And even if you're playing a song that doesn't do that, like the strumming pattern is different than that, as long as it's still just in your Garden Variety song in 4/4 timing, this strumming pattern will work. It may not sound exactly the same, but it'll get you through. You'll be able to play through it, especially if you were playing it with somebody else or with a group. It's just going to fit right in. Okay, yeah, so that's probably the easiest part. Now, something with this, we have talked in the past about chord progressions, like the 1, 4, 5 chord progression. Here's another example. But in this case, they're not going 1, 4, 5. They're going 1, 5, 4. 1, 5, 4, 5. So G is our 1 chord, D is our 5 chord, and C is our 4 chord, and then back to D. So now again, there I started kind of altering up that strumming pattern, trying to make it a little bit more a little bit looser and to kind of add in some extra stuff, some muted strums and things like that. So if you practice it just like this, and then as you do it, as you practice it and get smoother, you'll end up kind of altering it, really kind of putting your own spin on it. Well, hopefully that's what you'll do. Yeah. So I mentioned earlier about some other things that you can, like that you can do to kind of spice it up. So that's one of them, is just like changing up the strumming pattern, kind of, spicing it up a little bit. Okay, I couldn't find the pre-chorus. But the other thing you can do too is I told you it has that bass line that kind of walks up when they do the pre-chorus. They actually walk up to that G. So if you can kind of incorporate those two things together, I mean, you don't want to, you don't want it to be like that. You would want it to be like, you have to incorporate it into the strum. So I usually will just keep the top end of the chord going, and then when I go to get that note, I can put my first finger down here on the second fret of the A string. So it's like an E minor 7, but I don't want to hit the whole top end of it. I'm just, and then to just pick up the F sharp there. You could even do it with your thumb to that G, just a way to kind of spice it up. And there's lots and lots of other things that you could do. Just play around with it and make it your own. I said it's not a difficult song, not a complicated one, but it's a good song. Music doesn't have to be all complicated to be good. But yeah, it's a really good song. I think Jane Lane was a good singer. But yeah, so that is basically all the parts to Blind Faith by Warrant. And if you're just joining us, there is a link in the description where you can download the tabs, and you can watch the video to get the deets on how to play it. So, does anybody have any questions about any of this that we've gone over, or just any other guitar-related questions in general? And if you like what I'm doing, do me a solid, hit that thumbs up button. You are welcome, Crit. I hope that your work slows down a little bit for you, so you're not so stressed and everything. But I appreciate you being here. All right. Well, if nobody has any questions or anything, then we can wrap this up. Oh, thank you, Rick. I really appreciate it. I'm glad that the arm's getting better and everything. Uncle Tom's Cabin. I learned at the beginning of it, it sounds like it's a banjo, but it's actually just they're playing it on I think they call it a banjtar. It's basically it's a banjo, but it has 6 strings and it's tuned like a guitar. To get that sound, I do not remember how to play it, but that's a great song. That's like that's probably my favorite track on that album. But that's something we could do in a future session. It's weird. Warrant is like way more popular than I thought. I mean, back in the day, that they were huge, but I didn't think that they really had a huge much of a following now. But anything I've done with Warrant in the last year or so has been, people have seemed to like it. So Yeah, Squeeze. Yeah, just send me a message with the name of the song and the artist because I won't remember. Thank you, David. I really appreciate it. And you were welcome to 1980. Anything 80s? Yeah. Yeah, we do a lot of that. Um, I did, I don't know, a few weeks ago. It was just like a bunch of like 80s licks or whatever or riffs, um, and that did pretty good. And then I did a 90s one, and it didn't seem to do as well. I've got another one like ready to do, but it's on like from the early 2000s songs. So I don't know. But yeah, I really appreciate all you guys that are here every week, and everybody who's new, sticking around with me through all this. Really appreciate it. Yeah, David, that's a great song. The I'll have to I'll have to revisit that because I did learn how to play it. It just sounds a little bit different because it's doesn't have that banjo tone or whatever, but it's still the same thing. But yeah, I really appreciate y'all being here. If like I said, if you're new, uh, think about subscribing to the channel, hit that like button, all that good stuff. And I don't know what I'll be doing next week, but I'll be here next Wednesday, same time. So thanks, everybody. Hope everybody has a great week, and I will see y'all next week.